bringing the Middle Ages to life for kids. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. With us is Michael Burgman, author of Weird But True, Know-It-All, The Middle Ages from National Geographic Kids. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Fred. How are you?
Just terrific. Well, congratulations on a fun title and a fun book. You've been helping to get kids excited about history for some time now. Tell us about it.
Yes, I started freelancing almost 30 years ago. My background degree was in history. I wrote for Weekly Reader, which some people may or may not remember, depending on how old they are. It was a classroom periodical that dealt with current events and social studies in general. So I went from there to freelancing and doing mostly history books for kids. And it's been a lot of fun.
And this focus on the Middle Ages with this title, tell us more about that.
Well, National Geographic came to me wanting to do a book on the Middle Ages. I'd worked with them on a previous book, so they knew my stuff and they liked it. So, and they knew that history was really my bailiwick. So I jumped at it because I didn't know a lot about the Middle Ages, but was always interested in it. I thought this would be a good way for me to learn more and then share that knowledge with young readers.
So let's talk about some of the favorite facts here that you've uncovered and included in the title.
Well, one of them was about animals being put on trial. This was in parts of Europe. If, let's say, an animal escaped from a farm and destroyed property or hurt a person, they would be put on trial and could be found guilty. And I think in some cases they were probably executed for their punishment. So a little brutal, but definitely not something we would have imagined, I don't think, that animals would be on trial. And then the one that I really enjoy is there was a Danish king named Harold, lived in the 9th or 10th century. He unified the Danes, kind of creating the Danish nation. And he was known for having a tooth that was diseased, and so it looked kind of bluish black. And he got the nickname of Harold Bluetooth. And then centuries later, an engineer is working on a project to try to unify electrical devices wirelessly, computers, laptops, other things. He read about Harold. It's like, well, he was a unifier of people. I'm creating something that's going to unify people through the device, and he named it Bluetooth. So every time we use a Bluetooth device, we're kind of paying homage to Harold.
That is certainly a fun story, and it relates to the techie side of things. So
Yes.
do the Middle Ages get a bad rap? I mean, the image most of us have, I suppose, is pretty bleak.
I think they do, and unfairly. I think, the Dark Ages phrase came from later historians and kind of reflected the fact that they didn't have access to a lot of good, at least in Europe, didn't have access to a lot of good reference material. And then, of course, it was dark in the sense of lots of warfare and life was hard for the majority of people. But I think the book shows that on a global scale, it was really a period of a lot of innovation and interaction between peoples of different parts of the world. And I don't think it was dark at all. I think that I think that the image we have has been kind of tainted over the years. So I'm hoping this book will be a small correction.
Has the Game of Thrones done much for interest, do you think, in the Middle Ages?
I would guess so, and I think that that they certainly draw on things to me that, I mean, not being an expert, but like Viking culture and other parts of European Middle Age culture. But then they also show some of those other empires and dynasties, and as far as costumes and sets and things like that. But I think that the Middle Ages, parts of the Middle Ages have popped up in pop culture going back, especially in the fantasy genre. I think a lot of fantasy authors have drawn on Middle Age motifs, and going back to Lord of the Rings. So I think Game of Thrones is just the most modern take on kind of integrating Middle Age aspects into pop culture.
Not necessarily a lot of accuracy involved, I suppose.
Well, yes, I'm sure, and certainly no dragons in the Middle Ages, but
Nuts. Okay. Well, tell us about the dedication in this book to the teachers who inspired you.
well, I think everybody has favorite teachers that they look back on and realize that they kind of sparked an interest in one thing or another. And for me, it was definitely history. It goes back to high school, some really good high school teachers, and then in college, some very good professors. One in particular who was kind of a mentor when I was doing an independent project. And then after I graduated, over the years, we stayed in contact, and he would send me books that he knew would be relevant to what I was working on, and I could run things by him. And so I had an interest in history on my own, but I think, those good teachers really cultivate in whatever field it is you're interested in. And so I'm hoping that this book will have kids get a little more interested in history and maybe either delve deeper into something that I present or go off into some other area, but just see that history is relevant.
Online, we call it kind of clickbait, I suppose, something that makes you click on something. With the
Mm-hmm.
Nat Geo Kids books, they have a great way of taking that concept, I guess, onto a cover of a book or into the promotions for a book, giving you something that, hey, I got to open this.
Right, right. Yeah, I know that they did it. I think the teaser on this book was well, about the goose quills filled with gold. So I think that would be so, because you wouldn't necessarily equate gold and goose quills together. So that definitely piques your curiosity.
What about writing for kids and getting them interested in a topic like this or in a period of history like this? What do you as an author try to do to bring the kids in?
Well, I think one thing that I did try to do in this book, and I've done in other projects, is again making the connections, like something from the past that's still relevant today, whether it's the source of a word or an invention. And we talk in the book about the inventions of the Song Dynasty that we still use today: paper money, gunpowder, magnetic compass. So it's making those connections. Hopefully, that makes them see that history is not something distant and dusty. And in particular, in this book, I think part of the way we present the material, I mean, National Geographic is obviously known for their great images and maps, and this book is filled with great illustrations and photos. So that's going to capture a kid's attention. But then, you've got to follow it up with the words too. And we try to do it both in how we present it, as far as breaking text up into little boxes and things, so it's not intimidating. And then the part of the weird part, I always think of it more as fun than weird. It's presenting the information in a way that uses language in a fun way, whether it's with puns or jokes or allusions to things that are current that you wouldn't necessarily associate with something from 1,000 years ago. So it's kind of combining all those things that hopefully creates the formula that makes it entertaining for kids.
And kids will be telling their parents, hey, you know where that word Bluetooth comes from, right?
Right, right. Well, and I also hope that if some of the language word plays go over the kid's head, that if a parent is reading the book along with a child, they're going to at least appreciate it and get a laugh out of it too. So, I feel like I'm aiming at two audiences at once.
Just terrific. Again, the title is from National Geographic Books, Weird But True, Know It All, The Middle Ages. Michael Burgman, thanks for spending time with us.
Thanks for having me.